evening and good evening and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul, where I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Bolden Hammond. And listen, we are almost in the end of season 4. And let me tell you, I have not taken a break since last year. So it is time for break time. And I think to leave this year out is on the biggest, hottest topic. You know how Wendy would say, "How y'all doing?" So, what I have brought two of my special sisters, Makiva Miller here and Miss Jamila. Oh, wait a minute. She done changed up on me. Miss Houston. Okay. I have brought them on me on the show tonight, and this is like 1 week before we end for the season. I think it was very great to bring this topic up because the hot topic now is the movie Sinners. So what better way to start almost getting you into something, but we also want to give you some background because, as you know, some of us do non-traditional healing practices, and we talked about that has been a big controversy between the church world and the other worlds, but we just come to bring you what we know of. And I will say everybody has their own opinion. Everybody practices whatever they practice. This is no way, let me put this disclaimer, this is no way depicting or going up against the church. But I do think that historically, we need to understand that there was a lot of symbolism in there, and it just wasn't just, and we know that it was a vampire movie, but we're gonna give you some facts on why that representation of that symbolism, and we're gonna give you a couple things that maybe you can notate. I will say, just have yourselves an open mind on some things because it may not, because what we always been taught might not be the right way what we've been taught. So welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
So, are we ready to tackle this? We ready to tackle this movie. So, who has here? I know both of you have, but who has seen the movie more than one time?
I
I
have.
have.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes, seen the movie more than one time. I actually have to go back, and I had to go back and look at the symbolisms again
Mhm.
because some of it I
Mhm.
missed, but then I did not miss. So I'm gonna start with you, Makiba. What did you draw from it?
Well, I didn't catch the symbolisms the first time. I caught it the second time, but the first time I caught the seven deadly sins, greed, gluttony, envy, wrath, and lust. And I caught that amongst the characters in the movie, and I saw that, and when I caught that, I said, okay. But I also caught the fact that even though they all were sinners, but they all were looking for redemption, but they're also forgiveness, but also trying to um, disconnect. It was the fact of dealing with their demons and trying to disconnect from that and how to deal with that and move forward and still be resilient and basically that's what I kind of got out of the first time around. And then the second time it got even more deeper because it got to where Sammy and the traditional Christianity, I guess they would be more like Church of God in Christ or
Mhm.
Pentecostal type, where they were very, very strict about music or partying on the weekends. Don't do that because coming up as a young girl, my parents were Pentecostal Church of God in Christ. No red toenails, no pants, long dresses. So that I kind of saw myself in Sammy because I was the rebellious one. And I just in my spirit I felt that that just was not the way to come up. So I was I would say not the black sheep, but maybe more the problem child because I always did my own thing. So
Mhm.
left home young, ran away at 14, come back because they were super strict. You know, you got that s- extension cord or peach tree switch, and then I ran away again. But then I knew that that wasn't the right way to really come up because I felt like I can have my own relationship with God and we can have our own conversation, and that church shouldn't be a controlled system
Mm,
where we're
mm,
Mhm.
controlling our family or controlling the community, telling them what they should or should not do. Because the Bible has been revised so many times and it has been rewritten to control the
Mm.
community and the people. And with the older generation not really knowing, they're just following and not really deciphering it for themselves. So with Sammy, even though the music draw in, it brought the people together. The people loved it. They danced. They brought in the ancestors, felt it. But it also draw the attention of the demons because
Mhm.
demons like music too. But also the later on in the movie, the demons also knew the scriptures by heart as well. But it is it is what it is, but Sammy had to be accountable and he had to find that balance. And I think that's where he was at. He had to find balance. But back then they really didn't know about having balance with
Mhm.
the dark side and the light side or embracing the shadow with the light. So but as time has evolved, us as a people have learned and have not steered away. We went back to researching our cultural, holistic ways, spiritual ways, and we're learning how to embrace that and not just to bring it together because it's who we are. We can't be one, they say, "Oh, no, you can only do it this way and you can't do it that way. You have to choose a side." For me, my opinion, I don't believe we have to choose a side. I think we can embrace that and bring it together. And that's what creates who we are. And we can better move forward. And whatever it is, whether we want to be religious or that spiritual, holistic person.
right. The same for you, Jamila. Same question to for you. I know you said you've been twice to see it. What
I'm,
about yeah?
I'm like three. I've been three times. Yeah.
So yeah, give me your viewpoint. Give me your viewpoint.
Yeah. So kind of like Makiva, I've seen it three times. The first time I watched it, I did notice that there was a lot of symbolism in the movie, but I needed to just watch the movie to just watch it. So I did. I just let myself watch it without doing too much thinking so I could actually take the movie in. Then the second time I went to watch it, I saw it in IMAX because I wanted to see it how it was filmed. And that actually the experience of seeing it in IMAX provided like way more insight on a lot of the symbolism in the movie. But the third time is when I really got it. Like it really started sinking in.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's also a movie you could see a bunch of times. Like you can keep seeing
Yes.
it and you're always going to be able to pull out more. But like for
Mhm.
me, just even in the beginning of the movie when they come in on the twins
Hmm.
and one of them was wearing red. I want to say what that is. That was Smoke. Smoke wears red. Stack wears blue. Smoke is the heart. Stack is the mind. Then you have Smoke. He's the one. The heart. The heart is driven by instinct. Is driven by passion. That's how Stack was. He just did. He didn't really think so much. He just kind of like did it. But he also was the brains from what I saw of their operation. He was the one minding the money. He was the one helping Smoke, who was so heart led sometimes, with making some of the business decisions as well. And then you had Smoke, who was the heart, who was the one that kept them calm, was the one that was like mindful. So I'm like, I saw that immediately. And even when they went to go pick up Samuel, and they went and they were on that truck, the snake that they saw, the serpent. That was like a whole foreshadow of pretty much the whole movie, pretty much. Because like it's like Stack gave the knife to Smoke, and Smoke was the one who actually killed the serpent. The only way to kill a serpent or a snake is by what? Cutting off the head. And so he had to cut at the head first to kill him, and the snake in general was going to attack Samuel. That's who it was centered and focused on, which became the whole premise of pretty much the whole movie. Like I'm like, so like that. I'm like, it was so much. Even Annie and her, like you said, touching on like our spiritual practices, and Annie and herself first. I appreciate them finally giving some proper representation of beautiful chocolate women, full in their bosoms, full in their body, being wanted, being loved, and not being shown as loud, obnoxious, how they normally should with no man, don't nobody want, because typically that is what is done. And so I appreciated that, but I really like how they highlighted spirituality versus religion. And that's what you could see in the movie if you looked at it. Religion kept them bound. They were so religious, they didn't even know how to fight their demons. But spirituality, if Annie wasn't the spiritual one, she was the one who had discernment. Her discernment protected everybody. Her knowledge of roots, of knowing how to use the garlic, of knowing that we gonna need wood. That even wood is an element. Her knowing how to work the elements. That is what helped save them, even though most people died. That was their sacrifice. They sacrificed their lives. But it's like if she didn't even have that working knowledge, we wouldn't have had a whole movie. And that was to me, that was really important that they showed that. I like that they showed that, because at the end, when you have Samuel going back home and he has his guitar, and his dad is telling him, you're gonna have to let that go. In order for you to come back to God, you're gonna have to let that go. But why would I give up my God-given gift, the gift that God used to help me, save me in the end, right? Why would I give that up? I don't have to. It's like he came to realization that I can still, like you said, have balance. I can still be spiritual, and I can still do what God told me to do, which is music, because my music transcends what is in this realm. It's a whole other frequency. I like how they showed that music carries frequency. Finally, they're letting people understand that the music that you listen to matters, because one, you could be playing on a frequency that's going to call in those energy vampires that are going to seek light, that want to take, that want to just steal, that want to be succubuses. That's what your music does. And it's not just music, it's your gift, your God-given gift, your talent. You can put in place anything that you have. When you're a light, they come, they seek, they find, they see that you're using it, and they want that gift. Like it showed all of that. But then even showing how, hey, if you didn't have the blues, you don't got none of this. Ain't nobody shaking their butt. We ain't twerking. We not doing that. But also showing where the blues came from. It came from pain. It came from struggle. It's the music that we use to help get us through, to help keep our head up. It was like the movie was just packed. And even I'm like, oh, the two sides of the street. I noticed that on the third time. There was the white side. There was the black side. It was clearly segregated. But then you had the Asians. They owned a store on both sides of the street. So it's like that's also that shows how we are as a nation, though. We are separate. We do move separately. We do look separate. The black side look way different than the white side of the stores did. But then you have the Asian culture, and they kind of ride the line, and they work both sides. It's capitalism. It's a little bit of everything. The movie just packed it all in, and it's like you got to keep going and go see it to like keep digging more stuff out. And then you got to talk about the energy empires. Like they just are what they are. What it told you people should know this is be mindful of who you let in your house.
Yes.
All your friends ain't always your friends. Be careful who you allow in your body.
Yes.
Spit in your mouth. That's nasty. That, like, all these things. Like, it's like if you didn't catch it, you asleep, and you should probably go see it again and then keep watching it until you can soak up what exactly you were being told. Yeah. That's what I got from it.
Yeah. I'm a person, been in ministerial school, been at all, did it, with the symbolism between the brothers, right? The symbolism between the brothers is because each one of them had something in their birth line, right? So we know from the backstory that the father was very abusive, and then the mother died. The one and that was due to childbirth, and then he's with his mother. So both of them had some birthright issue, and it goes back to stuff when you in the Bible when you had this the twins coming out.
Yep.
One yanked out and one back.
Yeah.
You know, try to get out first. You know, it's just, I just say it was a lot of symbolism in that. And then you just brought up a good part about it when we talk about the vampire part. No, we know it was a gory. We know it was vampires, but that is so true. When you let certain things around you, you have to invite it in. That's all to it. How are you inviting something into your atmosphere and into your space? Because it can't come in unless you invite it in. And that's just like you were saying, you know, the vampirism of it is, you know, well, it is the crossroad. How are we doing it? It is, you know, in Christianity, it says, often uses metaphor. Again, you got light, you got darkness to represent the good and evil. Like you said, on the street, there was good and evil. So this is why we're trying to bring this to the fact, because it was a lot. If you really, or as a downright person like you should be, it was a really awakening for your spirit, you know. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, it was sinners, you shouldn't have went to go see nothing like that. Or people say, oh, they had somebody practicing hoodoo on the set and this. I just want to be clear, and I'm gonna move up on this one. I'm just gonna be clear. As you said, Makiva, as you said, things have been passed down along to us. I keep trying to forget it. Now you can't forget it. That's the literally practice that we had prior to us coming to colonization. These type of spiritual practices. Now, regardless if you saying they're demonic or whatever else, well, who told you that? Well, that told you that, as you said, King James has been written over and over. You got the New Living Standard track. You got the date. You got it all these different versions. But I was so glad that when they said about what they said, because here it is. Now, here's the comparison. And again, as I stated before we started with the show, I'm not church bashing. Trust me, I'm not. I'm a believer of God. I just think that we need to open our eyes clearly to what we said. Because you'll say, oh, well, she was doing a ritual.
Well, there's
rituals. We do a ritual every first of the month. Stop. You put in your white. You dress with your white. You listen to the verse of this was the blood that was shed for us, that we are drinking. I'm just going to be clear. I'm going to be real about it. People might get mad, but I'm just going to be used. Symbolism.
I was about to say, that's symbolism. That's everything.
That same thing is symbolism. Okay. And then we put on our white. Ain't no different than you dancing and shouting. What does the ring shout? Back ancestral wise, slave wise, music got us through the pain, through that, you know, bringing the elder in the center of there. You will form a ring around that. You will have the person going, clap, beat. Then everybody will excel. Same thing as you feel and getting spirit filled or whatever else. I just want people to understand and stop saying that everything is that devil or is evil. It is what your intention is behind it. So again, symbolism. You talk about this is the bread of his body. No different. Symbolism. Symbolism. That's it. Ring shout. Used to do it. Ain't no different than you having testimony of service, right? You just in another building, right? You're inside of a control building, because many times you will see it. We pump it up with what? The music, the drums, and everybody get the tapping, the feet, and then all of a sudden the control is stop, and then it stops. But are you really fully flowing? Because if you're really, really in the spirit, it doesn't stop.
I'm about to say nobody
sure don't.
The spirit control
really
that part.
So come on, people. And again, I am not bashing. I'm just bringing out some things as symbolism. You know, you talk about, like you saying, the sounds and the frequency. It's no different than the same with gave him the spirit how he was.
Okay.
And then David would play what he did in that frequency.
Yes.
It's nothing but the
Yes.
today's modern,
Mhm.
it's the frequency. Everything has a frequency. Even if you look at it to the part of how the creation, how it began, light.
Yeah, spoken
it
word. It was
was
a
it,
spoken
it was
frequency.
void, right?
Yep, a
It was
spoken
void.
frequency.
So then the
Yes.
light had to come. So I just
Yes.
want us to be careful when we say certain things. And 9 times out of 10, if you look back in your line, somebody
Mhm.
did some type of practices,
Yep.
because I had to research
Oh,
some
yeah.
of my
Yes, they
stuff.
did.
And I'm just being real. I'm just being real because I've heard it, and I had to go when we did a book a couple months back. I had to go research. Did I not, Bakiva? I went to go do some
Yes.
research. Like what is this? And I was told that, great, taking dust off the grade, taking dirt off the grade. Well, that's a hoodoo practice. I'm just that
A
is.
lot of things are spitting on the broom. There's a lot of
Yes.
Yeah, superstition
superstitions
Mhm.
that
stuff.
I grew up with.
Oh, yeah,
Now, when
like
I
you
start
said,
thinking about it, and I'm like, all of that came from somewhere. And I started
yes,
asking questions. Where you even learn that from? Because you act like you're so holier than thou. And
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
whatever. But if I swept your feet right now, you're gonna snatch that broom from me and you're gonna spit on it. Don't
right.
you just
Yep.
can't you just use Jesus? And I'm not knocking it at all, but I'm saying, right, you
Mhm.
don't need to spit on the broom. You
Nope.
don't if
Mm-mm.
you got the blood,
Mm-mm.
right? So
Right.
it's that.
Mhm.
It's that. I'm like,
Mhm.
so I'm like, y'all, we was throwing salt over our shoulder. I still throw salt over my shoulder when I'm in the kitchen. Like, it's like little things, but we grew up that way because, like you said, that's in us.
That's in
This is who we
us.
Yes.
are.
And
Yes.
that was passed down
Yep.
through somebody
Generation to
ancestral line.
generation,
Yes.
it's not going anywhere. It's
Right.
managed to continue transcending time and transcending everything that they try to erase, because there has also been an agenda for erasure, to erase all of that, which also I
Yes.
feel like that's also kind of like symbolic in the movie. First of all, when they bought the place not even knowing that the intention was to completely eradicate them. They
Yeah.
bought a place not knowing that somebody was coming in the end to kill everybody in there. So it's like, it's even that, like, it's, yeah, that movie was good. I'm like, I'm probably gonna see it
Yeah.
again one more time.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm like, it's just,
It
Yes.
has a
it's
lot.
in
It has
there.
a lot. It
Mhm.
has a whole lot of messages in it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't realize this, but I've always heard it as was coming up. Then, again, splitting the pole, you walking there. Oh, I can't split the pole. Can't put my purse on the floor because look,
Ooh,
I'm
what? I
telling you,
wish
don't
I
put that purse
would.
on the floor. One day I did. I told my husband. I said, take my purse one day. I put the purse on. I said, don't put the purse. He said, where you hear that nonsense from? I said, I don't know, but I just do it. That's just do it. So, it's things that we say, but that's been something passed down along the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I'm like, all that's in the Bible too, though. Like,
Yes.
and so even I understood what you meant when you said the Bible was written to control. I really truly disagree with that statement, because I believe it's used for control,
Right.
but
Yes.
written in a
Right.
way that it's meant for you to have to go in there and use the spirit to decipher a lot of the things. That there's a lot of spiritual truth in there too. And if people actually really read it with the eyes of the spirit, there's no way that they could even remain captivated in their mind, because a lot of it is it's about being free. It's about being set free. That's how I see it anyway. When I read all the way through, there's freedom in there. And if you could just tap into the Christ consciousness part of it, if you could see that when blind Bartimaeus wanted to see, and he asked Jesus, and Jesus picked up the dirt and spit in the dirt and then put it on his eyes. So what did Jesus just do, guys? Did he not just use the elements and make kind of like a little salve?
Yes, he
You kind of
did.
say that was a potion, if you want to call it a potion. It could be anything. Like,
Yes,
it's
he
all
did.
in there. Speaking to a fig tree, he just only spoke. All he said was, you not gonna do nothing else since you ain't producing fruit, and it's not even this season to produce fruit, but we're not going to talk about that. But it died. That's speaking of frequency and putting something, it's an energy exchange. I'm like, the Bible is full of metaphysics. It's full of rituals. It's full of symbolism that I really been trying to understand how people continue to remain blind to it. Because it's like, if you were actually reading it, you could be able to use it to set your own mind free. It's telling you in there, you need to be transforming, you need to renew your mind. Yet when you read it, you only see bondage, and you're stuck and you're trapped in these few verses. Those are the parts that the men wrote. It's men in there too. But there's spiritual truth, but then also you need to be mindful that a lot of stuff that's supposed to be in there ain't in there either. So, you got to also read with that kind of discernment. But it's like, I really think that that's why I like the most about the movie, is that they showed a stark difference between being stuck in religion and then using spirituality. It is not separate from God. She wasn't separate from God. She was more tapped in from being free.
Yes.
Than than they were being bound. They were so bound that they didn't even, they was more afraid of the demon than they were ready to go straight on head to head. But the spiritual people, we ready. We're ready. We're equipped. We're ready. So I hope that people, I really hope y'all got that. I really hope y'all saw where we came from, what we're doing, and also how our ancestors right now are rising up.
Yeah.
That's the whole point in the movie. It was like a call, like, you better go see it if you ain't seen it yet. Because it also, like you said, it should lead you to a spiritual awakening. It should be an awakening process within you to let you know, hey, it's time for us to get to work and tap in. However you need to. Whatever you need to do. We ain't telling you to leave nothing. We ain't telling you to do nothing different. Watch the movie with an open mind and an open heart.
Yes.
And
so we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, you just touched on something. You leading us right into reclaiming your ancestral spirituality.
Yes.
So when we come back, we're going to take a little break, but we're going to come back and we're going to discuss that portion of reclaiming your ancestral spirituality. All right, we're going to be right back. So grab some tea. If you haven't shared this, share this episode right now.
Women's Retreat, April 2026. A sacred escape to reconnect, rise, and reclaim your power. Are you ready to pause, breathe, and come home to yourself? Join a powerful circle of women for a soul-deep retreat designed to help you reconnect with your inner wisdom, restore your energy, and rise fully anchored in your divine power. What to expect? Soul-nourishing workshops, guided meditation and breathwork, empowering conversations, nature, stillness and sacred ritual, sisterhood, support and transformation. This is more than a retreat. It's a homecoming to the woman you were always meant to be. Join your conference host Dr. Michelle Hammond, the Mind Body Soul Connector. April 7th, 11th, 2026.
Welcome back to another episode of the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul. I am joined here with Makiva Miller and Miss Jamila Houston here. And listen, what you just saw there, that is Anchored in Her Power retreat that is going to be coming up for April 2026. We are now gathering, putting that together. If you want more information, you can contact me. There's my email down the bottom. But I'm going to tell you, you don't want to miss April 2026 Women's Retreat. We had a ball this year, and it has enlightened me. I have had the spiritual awakening to do it on a cruise ship now. So, I have not got all the speakers yet, but this year is going to be a bang. So Anchored in Her Power. So it has some great things that's coming ahead for that. So tune on into it. So, and again, that's one of the things that we're going to be sharing on that cruise about doing some of your ancestral practices, especially when it comes down to the movement, somatic movement. So that is one of the things to do this next year to come up. So I think it's going to be a great thing. And yes, we're going to put on our white and we're going to dance. Dance. So yes, I am excited about it. I am. I wish it was now, but you know how it goes. So speaking, as we just talked about, reclaiming your ancestral spirituality, in text of Christianity, it emphasizes that it's just the singular path, path to salvation, in which it can, it's your path, your spiritual path, what leads you to your connecting to your higher power. But sometimes most time disseminates on other spiritual practices as heresy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
we look at it in, the film, we talked about certain things. How important, I'm going to say for me, I'll just start for me. Um, as I said, I did some research on our Daughters of Healing recipes and remedies book. I did some research. That was like a part of my school and stuff, to do some research on, different practices and different things. I even down to religions. Like I said, I've been to ministerial school. And one thing I can say about Liberty University, I will say that they would say you champions of Christ, but you also have to understand some of the worldview. I think that's where a lot of us get mixed up.
Mhm.
It's just that way or no other way. One of the things, you have to be respected, because this is me. You're not gonna bang over my head every day. And of course, nobody's gonna listen to you. You keep, oh, here she comes again, and I can remember being that gung ho, but then the awakening happened. I can
Mhm.
remember all that gung ho time. But after I did that research, and when I shared what was called in the family lineage, put it that way, and when the person said to me, well, it wasn't for evil,
Mm-hmm.
and this person was being veered and looked at, I was like, oh, okay. So I've heard it. Someone, even when we say prophesying, when people be prophesying to you, that's a whole nother symbol, another
Mm-hmm.
thing as well. I'm just gonna
Mhm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a prophet lie, but it ain't no different than you saying, oh, I'm going to Melina, whatever, it's no different than for her putting out to you. But that was a spiritual awakening for me, to awake, like, hey, what's really here, and depict again, like you said, Jamila, thank you for saying that, because yeah, that's how I was thinking it, but it did come out wrong about, it's made up. But that's how I think you got to compare.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at, you have to have like you said, a spiritual awakening and a view of what to depict what's you. And I always say, people, he might sit up there and tell you tens and tens and tens and thousands of things, right? And again, I'm not telling nobody not to tithe, right? But I've always, I'm not telling nobody to tithe. I'm not saying that you do what you have to do, because tithes and offering is, you know what I mean? But here's the thing. If the Old Testament, because I can see how sometimes people can control it. I've had in some ministries before where they can control it, what man robbed, not, but they're still not going back thinking about
Oh my God.
what the basis of the tithes was. Was it dinero? No, it was your farmland. It was
Mm-hmm.
things to store up for the needy. Now, am I right or wrong? It was stored up,
Mhm.
store ups that that when you lacking, that this gonna be there, right? But then, I in the New Testament, not that you forget about the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
but Jesus came to save the world. All that stuff went under the creed. I'm not saying for nobody not to tithe, but some people hold that as
Yep.
a control thing. Well, a man rob God, he get
Mhm.
up every Sunday and say it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you have somebody sitting in your pulpit that don't have enough food to eat.
Mhm.
And I don't believe that you expect that person to give their last. And I'm not saying that I can tell you some
Mhm.
testimonies of where I sacrificed. But again, that was my sacrifice. And that was just the spirit telling me to be obedient. Was I going to be obedient? Because I can remember being on a quarter tank of gas years ago. And for some reason, I put that last bit of money in the infantile that for some reason, when I got up to our car, and people might say, well, it was just your hand. No, I don't believe it was just the hand. My hand moved up to half full. So no, because it was a fairly new car. So I know that wasn't the issue. But I'm just saying, it's certain things that we have to look at and not always assume that it's wrong. Compare it for yourself. That's why I always tell people, go read that Bible for yourself. Because it said the word is the light upon your path. It will just like it will be inclined. You got to incline it in your heart, because look, they're trying to erase it all away anyway. So what is in the matters of your heart, as you said? So do you agree, ladies?
100%.
Yes, ma'am.
I fully agree.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
like, oh yes. I'm like, please don't get me charged up, because I'm like, because I could go. I'm like, because even if, I'm like the whole. I do think, like I said, when it comes to so I'll say this: I didn't grow up in church. I was called to church and called to God by God. And I started probably in my 20s. And even then, I went in still with a very curious mind and a lot of questions, because I'm open-minded to the point where everything, just because you tell me, is not going to make sense. I'm going to have to go back and look for it at myself. And I got a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that I see in here. Some of this stuff is adding up. A lot of the stuff ain't adding up. Even the tithe, we tithe to the church. In the New Testament, Jesus said we are the church. So that doesn't mean, so to me, that tells me if I wanted to tithe to my sister today, who is herself a church, she is a temple, her body is a temple of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, however she sees it, why can't I bless her? Because I'm blessed to be a blessing, right?
Yes,
I'm tithing to the church. I'm giving my 10%. Will a man rob God? Well, you can't, because it also says in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and then Jesus followed it up, just in case people got questions. It was written in red for all of those who only believe what Jesus say. Ye are gods. Okay? Ye,
yes.
you, me, we are gods. How are you robbing yourself? Will a man rob God? A man might. A man will rob himself or rob his own spirit, yes. But you can't use that to hold over my head to make me give you some money in a church that you said ain't even helping. There's churches everywhere. And there's also children in the foster care system. There are mothers who can't feed their babies. There are homeless people on the street who go without. But we got churches everywhere. Nonprofit making mad profits. Okay? You're tithing to the church, that building, that structure. Why aren't you tithing to the people, right? And even if you get that, like Jesus, when he came, if you want to go New Testament, was he even in church? No. He was hanging out with the pimps, the prostitutes, the gangsters, the thugs, everybody that the church rejected. That's why I say read it with some different eyes. You got to have different eyesight, because if you did, you would see that what you're being taught doesn't even line up with what's actually written, what's there. You need to sometimes take it at face value. It doesn't line up. And when we start doing that I started getting, because even I was bound. The one thing that bound me was ancestral veneration. I couldn't move past it, because I was like, but it's not in the Bible. Well, it kind of is. It kind of is, and I'm not going to do that today on this thing right now. Okay?
We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back.
Have a whole book on Hebrews, and God starts going back telling you how this person believed, and how that person believed, and how that person, and how we need to remember them and be mindful of them. Well, those aren't our biblical ancestors. We need to remember and be mindful of them, right? And then, so why can't we do that for our same people, ancestors, spiritual guides, guardian angels, whatever you want to call them? It all connects, because we're all gods. In our own right, we're not greater than the Most High, but we are that. We're powerful people filled with the Spirit that can do the same thing Jesus did, but greater. Even
Because
greater.
he said greater works.
Okay, I'm like,
You
greater,
shall
that
do.
means you can raise
I,
the
see,
dead.
that's what I'm
That
saying.
means that you
Greater
can pick up
works.
some dirt off the road and spit on it, and you can make some blind people see. That means when somebody touches the hem of your garment, they can be set free, they can be healed. That means all of those things. That means that you can speak a word. Even the Bible tells you, and tries to take you to be mindful about, like you said, what's in your heart, what you're speaking out of your mouth. The same things that we use in spirituality, manifestation. In the Bible, it teaches you how to manifest. Believe in your heart and then speak it with your mouth. That's the only way it's going to happen. Is that not what manifestation is? Setting a true intention in your heart and then speaking it out, you know? So it's like, it's the Bible to me makes a good case for spirituality. And that's why, and I'm like, and it's not really separate from our spirituality totally and completely. Not really. Even some of our hoodoo traditions are kind of branched off of that a little bit, not all the way, but there's some of that in there. And it's just the God part. It's the part that you can't separate. God is God no matter what religion you in. God's gonna be God. Okay, it's just a God. He's him, he's she. God is creator, God is divine, God is whatever, the universe, whatever you want to define, quantify God as. And I think that I feel like that's the part that people need to stop fighting so much. And then religion is just a set of rules and practices. That's what religion is. It's not spirituality, and it does not make you any closer to God than somebody who doesn't go to the same church as you, don't read the same Bible as you, and who might light some incense and pour out some libations for their ancestors. Because ancestral veneration actually saved me spiritually. Finally, like just being like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go for it. Let me just set my little altar up. Because why am I binding myself when I'm denying who I am in my spirit? We got to stop doing that. We need to start going back to our practices and what belongs to us. And even saying it's non-traditional, I don't even agree with that. It is our tradition. So how is it non-traditional if it's ours?
Great point.
It's our
Great
culture.
points. Yeah,
And
it's a
then it's the
culture.
basis of how everything else kind of falls out.
It's in your lotion.
It's in your blood. And you can't escape it.
All right. So Makiba, you're gonna wrap us up before we get ready to wrap up.
I don't even know if I can follow up behind Miss Jamila. She learned me something.
I appreciate you for sharing, Church of God of Christ, because I appreciate you for sharing your, your past, with that. I thank you so much for sharing that because, I can remember, being in, like I said, you can't wear your arms out. I went to church one day went to church. I was like sleeve, didn't have no sleeve. Oh, you can't come in here with it. And guess what? That tore me. I never went back out. It took me a while to get back in. It took me a while to get back in that place because I felt like, well, if this is supposed to be the place for me to be, to get my healing, but yet what I wear makes a difference. That's a boundary. That's a stepping. But I can't get in there. And it took me a minute to get back. But, that's why I say we got to be careful. But I thank you for sharing, that your part of your story. You got to put that in a book, girl.
Yeah. But, and it goes further because my spiritual connection is ancestral and generationally inherited. And so when I was young, because my mom and then was so into church, but when I was young, she saw something in me and noticed that I was able to see spirits at a young age. And she wasn't always saved, but when she did get into church, she got really, really deep into it. So by me being young and being able to see spirits, for them, that was a call to pray against witchcraft and demonic spirits and stuff, and not really understanding that was just a gift. So coming up in that type of setting of super holy in the church, it kind of, as I got older, I kind of pulled back from the church. But then I started, as I got in my 20s, I would go back from time to time because it was always a message there, because I started to go to non-denominational churches because they were more connected to reality of the world or what's happening now. And so I would get, whenever I go back and visit, I would get that message that relates to me and what I'm going through. And so I was able to, okay, it's okay for me to be spiritual. It's okay to connect to the gifts and work and practice the gifts that they have left me. And for whatever reason they chose me to continue on what they have started, because it never was meant to die. And so my first awakening was, and I tell this story all the time, when my daughter needed a double lung transplant. And the last time she was in the hospital before receiving a transplant, she was literally dying. So they called me from Houston, Texas. The first thing I did was I called on God. I prayed because I knew He was the Most High. Miracles, mercy, you can do all that you can do. Then I called on the ancestors because I needed them to tell me what I need to bring, the herbs that I need to bring, what oils I need to bring, because I was not letting my daughter go without a fight. They let me know. I got on that plane with my herbs and oils. I thought they was going to take it from me, but they didn't. I explained to them the situation when I got to Texas, and went straight to the hospital. The doctors told me I couldn't bring it in, but he said he was going to turn his back because he didn't see didn't see anything. He let me go into the room. They were getting ready to put her in an induced coma because all her organs were failing before this transplant. I started putting the herbs together, started making the concoction. The second day, she was talking because she was not even talking. The second day she was talking. And then she started to come back because she had ended up catching chicken pox. And when she was in her 20s. So catching it at that age,
it's dangerous.
And yeah, and your lungs, and you need a double lung transplant. So they asked me, and the doctors would ask me, what are you, what did you use? I said, I don't even have a recipe for it. All I said was my people just told me what to bring, and I brought it. I grabbed everything I could, and I brought it and started giving it to them. So as the chickenpox was so bad, because they covered her from head to toe, they didn't even know about calamine lotion. I said, well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go get calamine lotion. And they was like, what is that? I said, that's for the chicken pox. It's going to help dry it up. And do you know, when I left to go to the store to find a calamine lotion, when I got back, they had a tub full of calamine lotion, the good stuff. And ever since then, they was like, whatever you need, just let us know. If we can get it, we're going to order it, have it in the room, and we'll just let you do what you need to do on the holistic level, because sometimes what cannot be fixed by Western medicine, sometimes that holistic way is the way.
Yes.
And ever since then, me and the doctors collaborated all the way up until it was time for her lung transplant.
And she is doing fine. She is doing amazing.
And she's working.
She's working.
Getting her bachelor's in health administration, because she says she advocate for senior citizens.
Yes.
So that's the proof, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever catch it on the Afterbite. You get some good resources here. And I will definitely say, I'm gonna pull the plug out for HPOP University, Holistic Professionals of Color University.
Yes.
You will get all what you need if you will just go and invest in yourself, because if that is one way that you can tap into what your ancestral spirituality from past to now, because they tell you it will open you up to so many things that we thought were so bad, but It's not as
Yeah.
bad as you think. You hear it all the time. Certain teas and stuff, it can produce healing, help with your organs and different stuff. Both of these professionals here, are fantastic ladies. I will tell you, because I don't fool with anybody. I just don't fool with anybody, but we're just giving you the resources, because one of the things is you want to produce these healing. And again, a lot of you be out here sick with arthritis and stuff. There are certain things that you can do that can help with that as well. Taking some teas and taking some herbs. And it's not being that you're practicing voodoo or anything like that. You're doing what your ancestors used to do. They used to do this to bring forth healing, because they didn't have a lot of doctors, and they didn't have no doctors, and those were the cures. Those were the elements. When I tell you, Wakiba, you're going to enjoy that book. I'm not going to put it out there, but you're going to enjoy that book, because especially, and here it is, I'm trying around here now to see if I can find me some cobwebs when people get ear stuff and this and that. And the other day, I was at work and a girl was saying how her grandmother would use urine and for the ear infection. And she said, she said she's 40 some years old. She ain't never had an ear infection since then. That was because her grandmother passed down through another ancestor. And this is from a Hispanic, but she was Puerto Rican, and she said that. She said, I asked my mother, why did you get this? Because she said, but I've never had an ear infection since that day. And she said she was 10, and her grandmother did it with the cotton. In that book, it shares about spider webs and how they used to do stuff with treat your blood and stuff like that. So it's all, again, I'm just going to end the show with this. Everything that God made is good.
Amen.
Everything. If it's those sound bowls that you use, because I got to put that out there, because somebody said, I'm not coming to your retreats because you do the sound bowls. He made the crystals. Those rocks have formatted to crystals that brings out frequency and sound. Everything that God, even down to the music, because this is where we're going with the blues and with Sammy. Everything that was a gift that God installed in him, and it brought forth healing. So I would just say, go get your healing and learn just go get your healing if you want it. And just remember, everything God made is good. So, ladies, I want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight. We'll be talking more after that.
Okay.
We definitely will. We'll be linking up pretty soon in a couple months anyway. So that's going to be really fun. We're going to be together again soon. Well, audience, this is just one more week left. This is the one before that. And we want you to give you something to lean on and think about during this break from thinking about this, to give you some real good details. So again, leave it out to say, if no one has told you that you are loved, just know that you are loved here at the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul. Tune off until next week. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Bolden Hammond.